Before we get started on community questions today, David, why don't you tell us what's on your mind?
What's on my mind? Well, the thing that I would say, and it probably wasn't going to be quite the same when we planned this out, but I want to mention that I reached out yesterday to someone that I've worked with in the past in crypto for quite some time, and I won't disclose his name. It is he, or not they, them, he, his pronouns, but he's Ukrainian. And I thought that he had already gotten out of Ukraine quite a while ago, and it turns out that not only does he still live there, he just had to relocate his family to the center of the country. And even then, he says it's not 100% safe anywhere there now, and he's worried. He has young kids, and it's like I felt so trivial asking him about something for related to the Stronger token and the upgrade to the Stronger token. Felt so bad about asking him about that, but he was very upbeat about it, and he just said, "Listen, I still need to do work. I still need to do business. I appreciate you reaching out. I'm looking forward to working with you, and I think that the most important thing that we can do here is to just keep those people, especially the Ukrainian people, in your thoughts." And keep anyone, anywhere who's not safe today, because there are a lot of people who just aren't safe. They may not be housing secure or food secure. There's all sorts of people out there, especially yourself and your loved ones. And safety isn't expensive. Safety is priceless. Safety in the world is very hard to get in some cases today. So for all of you who are able to sit and listen wherever you are on your laptops, on your phones, and be able to participate in this community, just understand that there are a lot of other things going out there. And I'm not saying that they're not going on with you. We all have things that happen on our lives on a daily basis, and friends who are in difficult situations, and even us who are in difficult situations. So just remember that. And I want to segue to something else now. Well, guess what? This is one of those things that we talk about, and it's pretty exciting, but it's kind of like hard to believe. Today is April 3rd, 2022. Why is that significant at all? It's like, well, 16 months ago, we started Nodes as a Service on StrongBlock. 16 months. That literally is a lifetime for a DeFi project. We're still here. We're growing. There's so many things we're able to do. And again, our plans have been measured in years, not months. And you can see that from how long this community has been around and how long the project has been around. Has it been all perfect? Is everything running just absolutely like we want it to? Well, that isn't how things work. That isn't how real life works. It's like, who would have predicted a war? Well, some people predicted war. Who would have predicted inflation at this level? Well, Jerome Powell certainly didn't figure that out now, did he? He actually advised people that, no, we're not going to have that problem. We're just going to keep printing money. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I approach everything with a game theory perspective. What's game theory? There's all sorts of things that people use for game theory, but the basic idea is that as you're going through a game, you've all played games, right? Raise your hand if you played a game, any sort of a game, even cards, even chess, checkers, etc. In game theory, every time you move, it changes the successive moves that you can make. If you're in chess and you've just sacrificed your queen, well, you don't have a lot of different options. But if you're just moving a pawn in and you're doing it to do another gambit, then you've got all sorts of other things that you can do. So each new advancement opens up new choices and in some cases limits them. And so we flow with that process. We flow with that process because things change. And so what would we have done differently knowing what we know now? And one of those things is, imagine that we didn't do the burn. This is one of the things that I've been talking about a bit. People say, well, they did the burn and they knew what they were doing. It's like, well, at the time, burn was the thing to do. Now, one of the things that I'd advise anybody who's about to do a large burn is, well, is there another way to maintain the tokens and essentially sequester them? Put them away, lock them up, do something else and say, well, we're going to put these in here for a time later on when we might need to use them, but we're not going to put them in circulation. That's what we did when we burned 94.7% of our tokens in November of 2020. That's how long ago that was. That's 17 months ago. Guess what? Well, they weren't circulating. We weren't using them at all. looking back, I think that the thing that I would have said is, listen, we're not going to use them at all. We're going to lock them away when we eventually do a chain, which we were talking about at the time. When we eventually do a chain, this will give us the ability to use the token as something in the chain. Now, what happens is with a strong token, and we're going to get into this a lot, so Will has a bunch of questions from the community here that we're going to jump into. What happens with the strong token is that it was written in a contract that at the time, the acceptable standard was there's no inflation, there's no minting, there's no burning. So what that means is we have a token that cannot be increased. And so I can't go back there and say, okay, everybody, we've been working on this, we've expanded, there need to be more tokens circulating so that there's more money supply. So imagine the federal government doesn't have the ability to go back and print more money during a time of crisis like they did. Imagine that the federal government was limited to the amount of money supply that there was at the time. What would have happened? Well, probably not anything very good. It is a specific tool that the Federal Reserve uses in times of crises. We didn't have that tool at StrongBlock. We didn't have the ability to go do something else. And so we've just been looking at this. How do we end up making this in a transition so that we can just literally get to that point and be able to move in there? So how are we going to make that transition? And so I think, so let's get into that. So let's get into, I think most of the questions here about the stronger upgrade. And so Will, let's give it back to you and let's figure this out. Let's kind of get into the meat of it here.
Wow, 16 months, pretty crazy. Also pretty crazy, we have over 2,600 listeners right now. It's climbing up to 2,700 as I speak. We're almost 1,000 past where we are last time. So let's not waste any more time and jump into it. I think what you said is a great transition for me to speak about Stronger. But before we actually get started on those voted on questions, is there anything you want to say regarding the Stronger upgrade?
Well, yeah, I think that the idea here is that I was almost kind of getting into that right before this, which is why I wanted to stop and just have you kind of like segue us into that. Here's the thing, is that imagine a world where we had the ability to go to now a reserve supply. Now, does that create inflation? Well, not in this case, because what we're going to do is we're not going to go out there and we've minted 10 million tokens. Are we going to put those into circulation? No. We're going to put roughly the same amount of tokens in circulation that already are in circulation to start. This is the reserve supply that allows us to move into other things in the future, the things that we would have done had we had the capability in the first place. It would have all been just, hey, here we are. Hey, community, we set these tokens aside. We were going to be able to move into this when we're moving into a chain because we need more to be able to circulate. There's all sorts of stuff we need to be able to do. Here's what we're going to do. And so that's really what we're saying. I say that we see this as literally just the ability to get to the point where we were before and then take it from there. And so that's what we've been thinking about more than anything else. And as a matter of fact, it's paused some of the innovations that we have stacked up. Man, do we have so much stuff ready to release. It's just going to start going out like this. Hopefully you can hear me snapping my fingers here. It's going to start just coming out the gates pretty quickly. There's, we were trying to figure out, how do we do only one new thing a week? So, because we're trying not to just cluster them all there and there's so much new stuff coming out. All the stuff that we've been talking about and a lot more as we move to StrongChain as well. So that's really the whole upgrade thing. And so, yeah, let's get it. That's really the background, is that I think that completes, before your question, I think that completes what I was talking about. Is we're looking at the ability to move to a token that will allow the community to expand, allow the entire project and the protocol to expand into StrongChain, everything that we need to do to be able to make this growing and thriving, and make sure that we can continue releasing our innovations that, parentheses, we don't talk about in detail in public because people copy them, period. Now, is it a bad thing to copy them? Well, we do talk about some things in public and people copy them, and they need to do their research. we do a ton of research. We do stuff where we're looking at how things are going to work. So with Stronger, wow, have we modeled the bejeebers out of that? Is that a word? Saul, is bejeebers a word? Anyway, I'm not sure if we've modeled the crap out of this. And we have looked at all sorts of things. Now, is it going to be perfect? No, that's game theory. We're going to get it out there. We have certain things that we know to be true. And then there are other things that will happen as we go along. So back to you, Saul.
Well, I'll definitely look up bejeebers later, but in the interest of time, we'll get a move on here. Our first question coming from Dank. Will strong or stronger be used for creating new nodes?
Well, until we launch StrongChain, the primary token for creating nodes is going to be Stronger. Now, strong will have a use. But right now, in order to make all of this work, we're upgrading the entire protocol to Stronger. And so strong will not be the token that you'll be using to create nodes, at least initially. Now, there are a lot of other innovations that we're working on, so we're not going to, again, disclose all of those. But the idea here is to upgrade the protocol to Stronger first and get that going so that we no longer have any sort of a money supply, token supply problem, and then move on from there. So the answer is Stronger will be used for creating new nodes going forward.
Awesome, thanks for the answer. Very highly requested one there. Moving straight along to our next question from CGMAF7. How will we acquire Strong after migration?
First, I'm trying to figure out how do I pronounce CGMAF7, SIGMAF7? That's I'm not sure if you can pronounce a lot of people's.
I didn't even try.
Really quick aside here. Last week, something emerged out there, somebody calling themselves Mavid Das with my picture sideways, and they did an AMA. And their AMA was, will everything be okay, was the question. And the answer was yes. And they said, that concludes our AMA.
Wow.
I think actually, so you were the one that sent me that. Either you or Robert sent me that. And it was like hilarious because, well, that's really what we're trying to say. Is everything going to be okay? We've thought about this. We want this to keep going. We're not doing this, oh, wow, we figured out a way to make $100 billion. It's like, that's not what we're doing. We're figuring out a way to make this work. So how will we acquire Strong after migration? Well, you'll earn it through rewards. That's the primary way. Same way that you earn Stronger, that you earn Strong right now. This is how will we acquire Strong after migration, though. So how will you acquire it? Well, it's still there. There will be some possible rewards to be able to acquire it. They will be few and far between. It will be very, very hard to get Strong, to earn Strong. One of the big issues with Strong is that there's so much, that it circulates so quickly. If anybody's been watching the wallets and how much circulates through the system every day, it's a profound amount. I mean, we only have 528,000 Strong tokens out there, and in any given day, there's 25 to 30,000 flowing in and flowing out. 25 to 30,000. And so we're going to get that down to a trickle. And so to be able to acquire Strong after migration, it will still be available out there. And as far as getting it through rewards, there will be some things. We have a whole thing that's, post Stronger upgrade. We have a whole system that we're building. I had mentioned that it might be a play to earn system. It's kind of like that. I know people were out there, went out and decided to build games and do all sorts of other stuff because I said just P2E. Yeah, it's not that easy for you to be able to earn Strong going forward, but we're going to make it possible. Plus, there are other NFTs. That's a whole NFT system that we built that we have been, the right word isn't delayed. We've just been refining it while we wait to get to the Stronger system because we need more tokens to be able to make this work. So that's a long answer, Saul, to a short question. You get this during our scrum sometimes where it's like David gets 90 seconds and David's second 90 seconds and third 90 seconds. So that was my third 90 seconds. So primarily you're going to get Strong in various ways, but it's not the primary goal going forward. And when you get it, it's going to be pretty hard to earn.
Thanks for the answer, David. I think a lot of people definitely love hearing the extra tidbits. I think that was our main reason for moving to the voice AMA. People complain it's too short.
Yeah, I can jibber jabber a lot more when I'm talking.
Well, we all love to hear it. So moving along to the next question here from MM Souls, another one I gave my best shot at pronouncing. Will the new stronger token be pegged to the current strong token? Are we expecting it to be more or less valuable?
Well, that's always a good question. The idea is for the stronger token within the contribution and reward system to replace the strong token. And so the question is it going to be more or less valuable? Well, that's to a certain extent a bonded curve issue. And if anybody knows what a bonded curve is, let's see, we talked about this before. We're going to get into bonded curves. So what's a bonded curve? Well, when you create a listing on a decentralized exchange, a DEX, you place up two things. You place one currency or one token against another, let's say strong to ETH. And when you're doing that, when we initially did that, way back when we first started this, because we created that Uniswap pool, when we first started it, it was, well, I don't know, 10 bucks, $9, $9 worth of strong against ETH. And we started that off, and then the market kind of works on figuring out how all of those things will happen. And so we don't want to be involved in pegging. That's not something that we want to do as far as the token, because that makes us, at least before we have a StrongChain. Now, again, don't get me wrong, we're thinking about a lot of things for StrongChain, but as a DApp, there are so many better, secure, trusted DEXs and centralized exchanges out there that we want them to be able to work with that. And so if we try to control something like that, then we're going to spend most of our time trying to control it. And so the idea is we're going to, and there's more details coming out. I've written and have gotten lots of feedback from our team and advisors on the Medium article that's coming out tomorrow that will give you an idea about this. But we're going to be creating pools, and as well as working with exchanges. As a matter of fact, right after this call, I'm going to be on another call specifically about that. It's Sunday. It's just another work day. This is Friday number 3 for me. So the idea is that we're going to be working on having that be controlled by DEXs and centralized exchanges, and then that's really how the community decides that will work. And one of the first things I can tell you is that Strong will immediately be much harder to get, and even stronger will, with all the various other things we're putting in place, will start to be harder to get. Now, we're not going to go and cap things immediately. We're not going to go and change people's rewards things or change the NFT stuff. All that's going to remain the same initially. But just wanted to let you know that that's how we're doing it. So yeah, let's move on. But that's basically what we're looking at, is that we're not a centralized exchange or a decentralized exchange. We don't want to be involved in that, because just the complications of doing so. It's much more complicated than you think to just say we're going to put that up there. But we will provide liquidity. We're going to provide strong to stronger and stronger to ETH, and provide a substantial amount of liquidity, and I mean substantial. So we want to make sure that there's the ability for this to just continue on, and for the protocol to grow, and for everybody to be able to participate. Saul, back to you.
Wow, great answer. Hit a lot of concerns there with just one question. Thank you for that. So for this next couple of questions coming up, I believe they are 2 parts of a larger answer, and I think there's a lot to say here, so I want people to keep that in mind, but I will go one at a time. Our first one from Gcoin. With the info from the light paper, what would be the benefit of creating new nodes now using Strong, when it's likely to pay out in Stronger, which currently we don't know the value?
I think that's one of the things that people have continued to do, because they, again, I think here's one of the things, is that I see it as a huge plus, because the way that we're constructing this, the way that we architected this upgrade, is to begin rewarding people with Stronger. And the idea behind that is that we're not going to go and flood the supply out there. We're not going to go out doing an IDO and sell a bunch of stuff. We don't have any of that. We don't have a supply for doing any of those kinds of things. And so literally we're just flipping over. It's flipping a switch. And so is there uncertainty about the price? Well, there's been uncertainty about those things. I literally, even saying that word that I just said that starts with P and ends with E, I can't even really talk about that. I can't really talk about those things. I mean, that's basically, we built the protocol. There's a certain amount of stuff that we can control and there's things that we can't control. But what we want to do is have it so it's a place where everybody can safely participate. And there's a quick segue on the safety side. It's like, well, people do still have their wallet seed phrases taken. And that's, again, completely outside of the protocol because we don't have your account. But we can do something once we get to StrongChain. There are a couple things that we may be able to implement that we've actually built that may work. And then we've also got node migration and node transfer. We'll talk about that a little bit more. So what's the benefit of creating new nodes using Strong? There's huge benefit because you will be the first to get stronger. It's a huge benefit, huge plus. If you're going out there and trying to acquire them any other way, you can't. And so if you're creating strong nodes or nodes contributing strong, you'll be the first to be able to get stronger rewards.
Great answer, which moves perfectly into the next question. However, I'd like to state that it's great to see so far our community's confidence in the new coin. In the last 12 hours alone, we've had almost 3,000 new nodes created. So thank you everybody for believing in our upgrade. Moving into our next question from Ox. Do you feel that if too much of the stronger supply is released too quickly, it would dilute beyond the point of return?
Well, that does definitely, those do sound like those two questions are related. I agree, Saul. And one of the things is that this also goes back to what I was talking about earlier, is that there is going to be an extreme limitation on circulating supply. We have no, we're not your typical company here. When we talk with especially a DeFi company, when we talk with this, there's this huge we talk with these different companies and they want us to list, all of our various things and how much did you give to an IDO and how many different investors do you have and how much tokens are they? It's like, that doesn't apply to us. We haven't done those things. And so there isn't some big dump that's going to happen with a bunch of people that are holding stronger. Go look at the wallet right now. There's one wallet. We'll be splitting that out on Monday and Tuesday into some of the various things that were called out in the light paper. By the way, some of those are going to change a bit. There's another question coming up, I think, about marketing and what we're going to be using that for. But some of those are going to change. We're not going to be releasing a lot of Stronger. It will be hard to get. It'll be basically the same as Strong currently is, and there's not going to be a lot initially circulating, and there's no dumping. There's nobody that's accumulated, 1 million Stronger or 10,000 Stronger. There's nobody who has done that will be able to go out there and do anything. And so the dilution is kind of a strange and almost almost absurd question. I mean, the Federal Reserve printed, let me get back into my Jerome Powell thing here, with the money printer goes brr thing that everybody had on back a couple of years ago. The Federal Reserve printed trillions of dollars during COVID. And they balanced that with QE, right? Quantitative easing, where you know what quantitative easing is? Well, it's buying up the money that you printed. So it's like they were printing it and they were buying it up. And so there's all sorts of ways of doing that kind of stuff. Amazon, I think I mentioned in the last AMA, did a similar thing. They did a 10-for-1 split and then they agreed to buy up a certain amount. We have things in place to be able to do that, but the United States and other countries still have inflation. I'm giving my United States perspective. I live here, but we still have inflation due to many other factors, supply chain issues, war, all sorts of other stuff. You can still go out and buy gas and groceries and do all the other stuff, and you're still living, and some things are more expensive, but there's also other things that offset that. So when you do that kind of stuff and you have a bunch of supply out there, it's like, well, it's not the supply. And people also go out there and they look at market cap. Well, the market cap, look at their market cap. That's ridiculous. There's this huge supply. It's like, okay, you guys are familiar with Ripple, XRP? Go look up how much of Ripple is owned or how much of XRP is owned by the founders. I believe it's still over 90%. Okay, the token is still out there. People still trade it. There's all sorts of other stuff, even though they, of course, had some other issues. May not be the best example in terms of, well, how well is it, are there regulatory issues? There's an SEC action, et cetera. But the idea is that dilution is really a matter of, well, what kind of supply do you need to have in order to do something? If you had something, let's say you're at a restaurant and people at the door, there's people waiting at the door, and people can't, and not only can't new people come in and take the seats until the other people have left, but they have to wait until the other people have paid, because then they have to literally pay everybody and come back and then say, okay, now you can put more money. Here's the money. You can change this into restaurant money that allows you to go back in and pay it, because we only have a certain amount of restaurant money circulating here, and so it slows everything down. And so part of having an open money supply is pretty important, right? That's why more dollars are printed, keep the dollars circulating. If dollars get hoarded by people, they don't circulate. They don't go to your local restaurant, your local store, your local bodega. They don't go to anywhere. They just stop. And if that stops, then everybody starts having problems. And so this is the circulation problem. The dilution problem is really the other side of a circulation need, and having a circulation need. And so, speaking of that, by the way, our sister company, we share some investors. Wax, if you guys follow Wax at all, they just released this thing called Blockchain Brawlers, and I'm a huge admirer of it. I was talking with them right before they were going to release it, and you know how many tokens they have? Everybody raise your hand if you know. I wish I could see you. Seriously, I wish I could see everybody out there. But it's it's 1 trillion. Saul we were laughing about this the other day. It's 1 trillion tokens, and they released it, and the token came out the other day, and now the price is down a little bit, but not very much. It's around, I don't know, 50 cents, whatever. Irrelevant. They have 1 trillion token supply, but what are they going to use it for? This huge game ecosystem. And why do they need it? Because, well, it has to circulate. They have to be circulating Axie Infinity. And, again, I'll do another quick aside here. Axie Infinity. My heart goes out to all the people involved in that, because, that hack was extraordinary. $620 million, maybe more. But where did that come from? That came from people investing in the project. That's going to devastate a lot of people, by the way. Hopefully they'll be able to make it up and do some other stuff, but they have a massive, massive circulating supply, because it's a massive system. Now, again, going back to what we talked about, we're not going to circulate 10 million tokens. We never were going to circulate 10 million tokens when we had it with Strong. We simply were saying we're going to take that off the table. Looking back, we just said we're going to take that off the table and set it aside, and the community will decide when it gets unlocked. So that's the only difference here. So we're not introducing the full supply at once. Only a small part of the supply. There is not going to be any more Stronger initially let out there into the community than there is Strong currently circulating. As a matter of fact, it will start off being less. So that's a small amount compared now to the total supply. And the total supply is primarily going to be set aside for the StrongChain. And again, if you look at what you're really going to be doing, well, then what happens when that's circulating? Well, are you familiar with TVL, total value locked? What happens is people take those tokens. Once you can be a validator, again, remember, we're making this so it's a community-based validation on the StrongChain where anybody can participate, not just people with lots and lots of tokens. You know what they're called. So anybody can participate. Well, what that does is it's going to lock up. There's going to be huge TVL for StrongChain. And so even though there will be more tokens, a lot of those will be locked up in order to get validation rewards shared with the community. So we've really been thinking a lot about this and trying to make sure that this works not only for the transition, but also to open it up for StrongChain. And so, and that's how a bill becomes a law. Anyway, so that was another long answer. So thanks for always, so we'll kind of sit on, we'll ping me on this side and say, you might want to wrap that one up. So we'll, next question, please.
Well, this answered full of great information. Thank you for sharing. Moving along to our next question from Captain Tibby. How will StrongBlock use the marketing allocation of Stronger as shown in the light paper?
Well, that's a good question. And again, we may not use, I think it's right now in the light paper set aside as 1 million tokens. We're probably going to narrow that down and have some just bigger buckets for future stuff that we're going to do. Those are general guesses. Typically what happens is you're bringing other, not just awards. People have asked about awards. How do I go about getting an award, once the StrongChain is going to build a DApp on it? Well, there's different kinds of grants and awards that'll be there, like there are in other chains. But there's also bigger things where we may be able to do a partnership to bring somebody in exchange for some dollars, and not dollars in this case, but in exchange for some tokens that would be locked up for a period of time and then trickle out to that partner. Don't even know if that's going to happen. I've done a number of those different kinds of deals with different chains that I work with. I did that while I was at Block One. And so there's different ways that you can make all of that stuff work. And so on marketing, this is one of the things that I've talked about, probably not quite enough about StrongChain, but StrongChain is going to be very important. And how big it gets will depend on what the community wants to happen and what we do as a community. Here's why: because we're not going out there and saying we're just going to build a chain and hope that everybody comes to it and make sure that it's just out there and really not focus on the technology. We got to build. StrongBlock started off with blockchain as a service. That's what we did. Why? Because we felt that there was going to be tons of blockchains out there. Turns out that there are tons of blockchains, tons of tokens. But what our goal was when we were building the blockchain was to understand how to build one that was secure, fast, and brought value back to the community. Again, secure, fast, and brought value back to the community. And so when we're doing this, when we're talking about the future and building out StrongChain, the goal behind that is really simple. We want to be able to have it so that we make sure that there are lots of people who can participate, that it can grow over time, but it's going to start off very specifically as something that our community needs. I think I hinted at this last time. It's like, imagine looking at just one building in the city that you live in and saying, well, that's the only building you can ever have. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't be a city. It would just be one building and one street. Imagine being able to build things out a lot more than that. And so the idea is that's where the marketing money will most likely come in. We're not going to go out there and spend it on. I remember as you probably all know, I've been around perhaps a little longer than some people in technology, and I was one of the people who helped create Edmunds.com. I was the founding CIO for that company, and it's a car. It's a car pricing site. At the time, we were in the top 30 internet sites when we first launched it, and one of the things that we did at Edmunds.com was that as we were putting all of these various things together, we were able to go out there and build this whole big community, build all the other stuff that needed to be out there, and we had all sorts of different kinds of partnerships and all sorts of different things that we did. And there were other people that were doing that during the .com era as well. There was a company called eToys. They had this really extraordinary Super Bowl commercial. Spent millions of dollars on it. About 3 months later, we bought up everything from their, they were down the street from us in Santa Monica, California. We bought up all of their stuff for pennies on the dollar, or bought some of it for pennies on the dollar, because they went out of business. Never worked. Their business model never worked. And so we're not going to run out there and say, oh, well, we've got 1 million tokens. Let's go out there and get ourselves a Super Bowl. And I don't know. Hey, I live in California. SoFi is there. There's Crypto.com has a stadium. SoFi has a stadium. Who knows? There may be other reasons for doing that, but if so, there'll be a good reason for doing it. So anyway, not sure is my answer. If you guys have ever watched Idiocracy, I'm not sure. So anyway, next question.
Well, I was already looking forward to the Super Bowl ad, but...
Don't rule anything out. This is game theory. Don't rule anything out. That's a good point.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so moving along to the next couple of questions here. I'm going to group these two questions together as they'll be answered. Is there an update on allowing claiming of multiple Service 2 nodes as one, lowering the gas fee significantly? As it was mentioned, it was being tested in an earlier AMA from Riley and from StrongChain. Looking at the roadmap, what are entangled nodes?
Entangled. So great. So the first one that we talked about from basically Riley and then from Kaneki. Let me answer it by saying this. These are the things that we've had ready to go for some time. For us, we felt that the only way to really effectively grow was, again, to make the switch from strong to stronger, make the upgrade. Multiple S2 nodes, that whole idea, and the idea of entangled nodes, all the other stuff, all of those things are ready to go. This is what I was alluding to earlier, is that we are literally trying to figure out what the best order to start releasing those things. These have been done and tested. They're ready to go. And so the gas fee issue, I'll try to put this the best way. I mean, Saul and Robert have inside information because they get to attend the scrums here, and so and they've been very good about not letting this out. And I won't let. And I always, I'm pretty zip my lips on some of these things. But one of the things that's really important here is that imagine something where you are able to take all of the nodes that you have and pay just one gas fee. I'll leave it at that. And then what are entangled nodes? Well, people have been asking about sizable nodes and entangled nodes. Those are kind of like our code words for those projects, but those things will allow you to move things around in not just one node at a time, but be able to actually control them, put them in a marketplace, pay gas fees, pay claiming fees, pay claiming fees, pay node maintenance fees, and add to them and add in different ways. And also, remember that at one point it was like, well, when Strong's price was really high, people were worried, well, it's too expensive for me to get in. What if you just needed one stronger token? So those are the kinds of things that we're working on right now. And when I say working on, I mean they're already done, and we're going to be releasing them. And so all those things are coming up. And so I can't go into any more details about that, but that's what we're doing. How it's going to work, you're going to find out, but we built it so that it will be less expensive and easier to participate and more expansive and allow you to do things that you've been wanting to do for a while. Just need to make that, cross that bridge from strong to stronger, do that upgrade.
Wow, thank you for the teasers there. I'm not looking at Strong Chat right now, but I could physically feel the ripples emanating from Strong Chat. So moving along here, our next question from U1967. With the news of JP Morgan involvement in Infura and MetaMask, is there scope for Strong to be a competitor? A Strong wallet with a swap feature similar to MetaMask, which did 200 million in revenue in 2020.
Yes. Oh, am I supposed to say something else? So the answer is yes. When we get to StrongChain, all those things are possible. That's why we're doing this transition. First of all, Strong to Stronger opens up all sorts of features that we've wanted to do. StrongChain opens up new products as well. And those are the kinds of things we're looking at, is revenue to be able to run on other, not just supply, again, starting off working on supporting StrongChain, but then after that, supporting other chains, doing partnerships, wallets, all sorts of things are now possible.
Yes, I don't think however many times we stated we can overstate it. StrongChain is going to be exciting for many reasons.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Moving along to our next questions from Press 3. Is StrongBlock looking to roll out service contracts that require more than 10 strong in the future?
That goes back to that thing we were just talking about with some of the questions from Kaneki and from Riley. Yes, more than and less than, and it would be more than and less than 10 stronger in the future, yes. That's the idea, is that that's going to be pretty flexible. You'll be able to participate in a much less rigid way. We've had it, the 10 strong contribution. Once we get across the bridge here to stronger, within the next, month to 2 months after that, you're going to see the ability to have more or less strong.
Wow, very exciting news. Moving right along to Jason the Professor's question. For Polygon nodes, what is the decay rate? And is this the model that they will likely use for the Ethereum Service 2 nodes?
Well, I can't go into the decay rate. We will be publishing that so that everybody knows what different kinds of things will be there. The Service 2 smart contract allows for multiple different node types, multiple different quantities of stronger to be put in and be rewarded, and multiple different decay rates. The idea would be that there would be different amounts of things that you could do up front that you could help find out, first of all, well, if you do this, this is the decay rate. If you do something different, this is the decay rate. And so it's, yes, once we get people into Service 2, with Polygon, that's already possible, but we paused making introducing any further enhancements that are already tested on our test nets until we get past that. But yes, that's where we're going to be able to do is, once we get that, then you'll be able to see up front, here's the decay rate. And then you'll also be able to look at and say, well, there's a marketplace for it. So if I do this, I put this in, it will go up to this point, and then, it's like, what's the resale value of this node at that point? What if I were to trade it and do something else, what would I do? Is there a way to accumulate those? There's going to be a lot of different things that I'll go into that in just a little bit here. So anyway, next one. I actually it segues directly into it now that I see the question here. So go ahead.
Our next question from Strong Haneke. Again, I think he had 2 questions in the last AMA too. Thanks for asking great questions, Haneke.
Yeah, good questions. Good job.
Yeah, people vote on them. So how is the node marketplace going to be set up? Will it be similar to OpenSea? Also, having seen security issues with OpenSea, what will make this more secure?
Well, I think that one of the differences with OpenSea, and every protocol has had some security issues. We have not as yet, and I'm going to knock on wood there. It will be similar to an OpenSea type marketplace. The idea is that, again, I can't go into too much detail here. It's not within the scope of what we're talking about right now, but the idea is that you'll be able to take something that you have that right now can only benefit you. It's like you got a car and somebody says, well, guess what? You've got to drive that car forever. You never, ever get to trade it. And it turns out that, well, you started off and it was a car that had enough room for 2 people in the front seat. And now you got 2 dogs and 2 kids and it just doesn't work anymore, but you're stuck with it. You don't want that to happen. And so that's really what the marketplace is all about. How to keep it secure? The security issues. Well, one of the things that we spend a lot of time on, which anytime I say this, basically we become a target, but we really work on security. And so anything that we would be putting out there, we would make sure was secure. Now, security, there's a lot of different security issues, and I'll just spend another couple of seconds on that. There's a lot of potential security issues that happen with any marketplace. The biggest one is just people putting up stuff that isn't legit. And so in this particular case, if you're not listing something that's part of one of the contracts, it's part of the contract in StrongBlock. And so before you even listed it would have to be verified. I mean, it would be easy to verify. With OpenSea, they've got thousands, tens of thousands of different projects out there, and they don't have the ability to verify them against their smart contracts to make sure they're legit. So they let anybody go in and list anything. And people do that all the time. Look, eBay is ripe with fraud. I ordered, if you order a big mirror and you get it and it's a mirror for a kid's dollhouse, and you thought you were getting an 8x10 mirror, and it's an 8 millimeter by 10 millimeter mirror. There's all sorts of stuff like that. So The way to avoid that is you start off with a fairly generic marketplace that's very specific to your community and your audience and the smart contracts. And at some point, will we have other things in there? Will it introduce other security issues? Yes, but again, the idea behind a marketplace and StrongChain and all those things is to do it within our community and have it benefit that community first. As we expand, then we have the ability to add security as opposed to making it available for everyone from the start. That's a problem. So yeah. Let's see, let's get on. We got a few more questions. We got about 9 minutes or so here.
Better get a move on then. Moving into our next question. Is the gas for StrongChain going to be strong or stronger from Trank?
Well, right now we're gravitating towards stronger. Gas could even be ETH. It could be WETH in StrongChain. No matter what we do, no matter how we do StrongChain, we're going to make sure that we remain EVM compatible, because otherwise we have to literally rewrite and port everything over, and we just don't think that that's a great idea. So right now it's going to be the primary token that you'll be using will be stronger, but it's quite possible that for gas it may very well be WETH on the chain. And so WETH, again, wrapped ETH. So it'll be a combination. Again, too far out right now. We're getting this bridge done, getting things upgraded to stronger. Then we're going to move on, and we've already been working on StrongChain, but we're going to continue doing that. So again, it's game theory. Once we get all these things out there, we want the ability to make appropriate changes and not be locked into doing a particular thing to make sure that it most benefits the community and is going to get the most adoption.
A lot of excitement for StrongChain. Our next question as well from L. Hartman. Once StrongChain is active, will there be a potential to convert existing nodes to StrongChain nodes for a competitive advantage against other chains, since they are not paying any node rewards?
Competitive advantage. Well, the idea is that you will have all the nodes that we have out there for Ethereum, Polygon. Again, we're going to be ready to do Phantom, and then right after that, another node protocol right after that, just in the next, in the coming weeks and months. But competitive advantage is that you'll be able to be a validator on our chain by doing that. Will we be able to convert it? That's a question that we've been pondering. Will we do that in a marketplace? Do we want to have things where you can convert things in the marketplace, or do we simply want to have a node marketplace? I think that we haven't figured how the best way to do that yet. We're trying to do, again, game theory. What's the next question when we get this out there? But do you have the ability to convert? Yeah, that seems like that's probably going to happen, but a lot of it is, I think that the easier way to do that would probably be through the marketplace, where you're going to have different chains will have different rewards, different nodes will have different rewards. Being a validator will have different rewards and different things that you can do. So, let's see. We've got a couple more questions, and it looks like we need to wrap up here pretty quick. So,
here's an easy one. Will StrongChain have its own block explorer like Etherscan? From George.
Most likely. I mean, we're exploring a lot of things, and we're leaving everything on the table for now. If you think about what CZ did when he was creating Binance and Binance Smart Chain, he went out there and created something. It was really just a simple copy, not even a fork of Ethereum. And then he went out there and got a DEX on it and got wallet on it and got all these other various things. So will we approach it that way? We're considering that. We have to figure it out. Again, we talk a lot with the people over at Wax, who have built quite an ecosystem based on a number of different products and features. We're trying to decide, and we debate this with them all the time, do we want to have that much control over all those things or not? And I don't know, but a block explorer makes a lot of sense. And as well as other statistics, there's so many things that we have there, like a stats page and block explorer, other things like that. There's so many things that we've been exploring. Way back when, in the fall of 2020, we actually built a DEX. We built I believe it was at the time a fork of Sushi, or I think it was SakiSwap, because we felt that SakiSwap did a better job since SakiSwap was a fork of SushiSwap, and we decided at the time that was overreaching our bounds and out of scope for what we were trying to do. So we'll have to figure that out. It is for the current DApp economy that we have and for the tokenomics. When we get to StrongChain, then a lot of other things are opened up.
Yes, and there's a DEX on our roadmap as well. Very excited about that. Anyway, that question segues nicely into our next one from Wealth Dash, one of our admins on the Discord. What kind of DApps is StrongBlock looking at funding? When will developers be allowed to apply for DApp grants?
Well, that's once the StrongChain is launched and we get things going. We will probably, even before StrongChain is out there, we'll probably do that in the testnet stage, so that we will have people building other things. Again, the first priority is to get everything ready for that's already working, that we will already have introduced on ready on the testnets for StrongChain. But then we'll also start opening things up for grants specifically for DApps that we don't intend to build or that we feel would be a good addition to the ecosystem. And so that'll happen once we reach the testnet, this stable testnet, not just, we've launched the testnet, let's throw a bunch of other stuff at it. Having built a lot of testnets before, one of the things you don't want to do, the first thing that we did when we got like the Block 1 testnet up is a good example, is that we went out there first and introduced it, and we ran different kinds of scenarios through it. And then we started using things like Gatling. If you're familiar, and all of you software people out there, raise your hands if you're a software person to know what Gatling is. Then we started throwing massive amounts of traffic at it, and different kinds of applications and different scenarios running at the same time. Once we get to that point, and we're ready for that, then we're going to have people start developing. So looks like we got a few more minutes here, and I think we're at our last question. So let's go for it.
Yes, sir. Our last question coming from another one of our admins, No Clue. What about StrongBlocks Future is the team most excited about? And what messages do you want conveyed to the community so that they are as excited about it as you are?
Well, I'll start off serious here. This isn't the movies. This isn't the Oscars. This is real life. There are real life consequences. Even there were real life consequences. I'm sure you all saw what happened. I mean, I live in the area where all of this happened, and we approach this, I don't know what you want to call it. It's adulting. Basically, we look at this as almost like our kids. A number of us here have kids and young kids, and where we take this approach so that we can make sure that we are doing the right thing for the community. And that's the thing that we always look for at first, is how will this affect the community, and how will this affect the longevity and the sustainability of the project? I want to get back to that whole thing that I talked about at the start here. 16 months. That's an enormous amount of time for a project that's just continued to grow, and it's still there and people are still participating. I was thinking about this. When I was growing up, I worked really hard at a part-time job, and I don't need to go into what that was. It was in another state, it wasn't in California. But the motivation, if I worked hard and did these extra things, I was able to earn a trip to Disneyland. I did. I lived in another state, as I said, and I got to go to Disneyland. It was out with the rest of my family. I just went with this whole group of people that were there. And so, I live relatively, close to Disneyland, and I was just captivated now. Basically, at the time, I said, this is where I want to. I didn't want to live at Disneyland. I really thought there was a lot more opportunity in Southern California, but you could go in there. There's all sorts of different things you can do in the park, and it just keeps adding those things on because they built that ecosystem. They built a place where lots of people could go and do lots of things, and it keeps adding attractions that people keep coming back for. That's what we're looking for with StrongBlock and StrongChain. The upgrade to Stronger is part of that plan to offer many more opportunities for the community to keep everyone coming back, having fun, meeting like-minded people. I mean, a lot of people have made lifelong friends as part of this community. The platform-wide upgrade to Stronger enhances that for the entire community, enhances that ability to do that, gets us to the roadmap features, gets us to lower gas fees, migration, node migration and transfer, node marketplace, the lower fees, everything. It lays the foundation for StrongChain, where we can have a community-first situation, a community-first ecosystem that drives value back to the community and enables you to tap into the validator and delegation fee and reward system that is typically only available to majority token holders. So those are the things I'm wildly excited about. I don't know if I've been this excited in a long time, because we had to spend a lot of time figuring out how do we get across this bridge from so we have an adequate supply, sustainability, and all the other stuff. We figured this out. We're on our way to get there, and so I'm very excited about the transition. And for me, it's the start of being able to move into this fantastic new world that we can have, that's like a Disneyland park with all sorts of things that people can do to participate, and that they can bring in themselves. You can do all sorts of things yourselves. It's not just going to be Disneyland. Imagine Disneyland that you get to add a new feature or attraction to. It's not just something that's controlled by the Disneyland, by Disney Corporation. So that's what I'm excited about right now. I don't remember being this excited in a long time. I was talking with my family just yesterday. It's like, wow, they were saying, we haven't seen you this excited in a while. I said, yeah, well, we had to get through a lot of stuff here to get to this point. We're ready now. We're right on the verge of being able to do this. So I am so excited. I'm so excited that you're along for the ride, and that you've been a part of the community, and that we're helping this to grow. I see on here right now that we have, oh my gosh, we had like up to 3,200 people listening while we were running this. I need to finish up here. I actually need to go and talk with one of our partners right now who is in, I'm going to be talking with London and Asia in just a few minutes, just to get some things set up for some next steps. Anything else, Sewell, or should we just say our goodbyes and thank everyone?
I think that's it. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. Great questions from the community. I hope I've answered them as best I can. Next up, there will be a Medium article coming out tomorrow. We will be doing the upgrade, or starting the upgrade, on Tuesday. Lots and lots of really huge things are happening here, and we're so happy that you're here. We're excited for the future. Like I said, I couldn't be more excited. This is like me going to Disneyland the first time. It's like, wow, so many opportunities. So thanks to everybody for being here today. Really appreciate your taking the time on a Sunday, celebrating our 16-month anniversary. That's a lot. That's probably, if you do 1 month equals 1 year in DeFi, think about that. Maybe it's dog years. It's still a lot of time. Let's call it dog years. It's a lot of time. So thanks,
Crypto
everybody.
years.
Crypto years is our crypto years, dog years. Discuss. Anyway, thanks everybody. Really appreciate your time today, and look forward. Have a great rest of your weekend. Again, be mindful, be careful, be safe, be loving, take care, and don't go up on the stage and slap anybody, please. Anyway, that's it. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.